Welcome to the Road to Richmond. In September 2015, Richmond, Virginia will host the World Cycling Championships. First time the event's been in the US in 1986 when it was in Colorado Springs. Today we're in Tuscany for the 2013 UCI Road World Championships. More specifically, we're at the US Women's Team Hotel here in Montecatini for the first episode of the Road to Richmond. We're going to talk to them about Saturday's big race, how they prepared for it, and other topics related to riding and racing in the US and Europe. Let's meet the team. Thanks so much for being here tonight. So much of what we're trying to do with Richmond 2015, aside from put on one of the biggest races in the world, is bring bikes to the forefront, get people thinking about bikes for all sorts of reasons. Racing, recreation, transportation. Two-part question to start off with is, what's kind of your first memory of being on a bike? And then more recently, in most cases, what kind of brought you into the racing side of things?
My first memory, I guess I rode bike when I was little, but for me, I think, my most vivid memory is racing the cyclocross race with my sister in California in 2007. So that was kind of my introduction into biking, and when she kind of introduced me to it, I was hooked and bought a bike and did my first race in June '08, and then quit my job a year later and turned professional in 2012.
Excellent. Yeah.
For myself, I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, which is a fairly eco-conscious place, and so I remember, having to ride to school with my brother and having to yell at him because he was older and he would leave me behind on the hills. So I remember bike first and foremost as transportation. I got into bike racing with the collegiate team at my college. It was just a wonderful group of people, and we had so much fun traveling around, and so I sort of took it from there, raced all the way through college, and then I went professional after college.
Great.
My first bike experience was as a triathlete. Maybe I shouldn't have disclosed that, but I got a bike on a Friday night for a Sunday morning triathlon. It was a used bike, and whatever gears it came in is what I did the race in. I had no idea how to shift, and so we got to the climb, and it was getting harder and harder and harder, and finally so hard I had to stop and walk the bike over the top and then get back down on the other side. Since then, I've learned how to shift, and I also kind of got a bit more polished, if you will, through the collegiate scene at University of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Excellent.
My first memories of being on a bike are with my family. We would go on day outings on our bikes, and my brother would always pick on me and hit his front tire into my rear, so maybe I just wanted to go fast and get away from him, and maybe that's why I found bike racing. But I was a swimmer for 13 years and then had to retire from that due to shoulder injuries, and same as most of the women here, I found it in college.
Yeah.
Started bike racing in collegiate.
Excellent.
Similar to Mara, I grew up in Colorado, Durango, and so my first bike experience is actually in the car seat on the back of my dad's bike with my 4 brothers. We're all out riding, and it actually broke off, and so I fell off into the road, and I got up and was about to cry, and then I was like, Dad, I need my own bike.
Yeah.
This can't happen anymore. So that kind of got me into it with my family, and then played soccer collegiately, and through injury found the bike and kind of turned pro in 2008.
Excellent. It's amazing how so many people seem to find cycling because they were doing something else,
Mm-hmm.
and whether it's injury or some other reason, kind of get into it.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Jade.
So my first kind of clear memory of the bike is trying to get my brother to teach me how to jump. And so I was like, you got to teach me how to jump, because I was always hanging out with him and his friends and couldn't jump a bike. And so he took me out, and there was this dirt jump. And so I was, I'd take it slow, then I'd get a little more air, and then I was finally like, check this out. And I got up so much speed, and I jumped, and I crossed up the front wheel, and I fully face planted. And then I cried all the way home. And then I didn't really ride bikes that much after that until when I was 26. I got a bike and did a century again with my brother, and kind of just snowballed from there.
Yeah, great.
let's see, kind of like Mara, I only knew it for transportation. Like I went to my friend's house on my bike.
Yeah.
I remember this time, the train tracks, we came to the train tracks and we had just gone to the pet store and my sister and I had fish in the little baggie and I got, the diagonal train tracks right downtown. It's a busy intersection, five intersections in one. And I crashed on the train tracks. My fish were lying there. Oh, the fish! And then, I cried and got up and left the fish to die. That was sad. Really sad. But I got into bike racing pretty later in my life. I was graduated from college and was a teacher, and I also did triathlons and was hooked and went to this talent ID camp and was a triathlete at the time, and I'm like, why does everyone have matching outfits?
You were my roommate at talent ID camp.
Later I found all my Mara's stuff underneath my bed and she had left already. So that was like, I didn't understand why everyone had matching kits and I was so new, I didn't know what was going on, but I was hooked. I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And later
Excellent.
went down that road. So.
Great. So here in Florence for this year's World Championships, I know a couple you've raced already this week, had some good results. Carmen and Evie, you guys part of the winning team, the team time trial. What was that race like?
I mean, so I was on the team last year, and we had won gold in Valkenburg, and it was an incredible win last year, and I have to say it was so special this year. And for a team time trial, the 6 of us race on your time trial bike, and it was 42K? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 42K, and I mean, we were the favorites, and there was a lot of pressure. I can honestly say, in that start house, that's the most nervous I've been. I was nervous last year, and I trumped it this year, and I'm pretty confident when I say this, that was the same for all 6 of us. And I mean, cycling, it's a team sport, which often people don't realize when they watch.
Sure.
And the team time trial is so special because it's very rare that you can celebrate with your team together on the podium. I mean, even when I think about it, it was only Sunday. It gives me goosebumps. It was, it's one of those life experiences that I'm going to treasure.
So that feeling you had at the start house, did that go away as soon as you rolled off?
No, it took a few K.
Okay.
A few K. Like I kind of messed up at the beginning. And then once you're in it, you're hurting. You're in the. I mean, all of us, we had a flawless race. Yeah. We executed flawlessly, and I think all of us rode above what we normally are able to do. And I think a lot of it is because we were a team and respect to one another, and how special it is to win it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. The same, everything. I was so nervous. She had done one already the previous year, and I hadn't ever raced a World Championship team time trial. Yeah, we had done 3 events prior to this. We put a lot of time and energy into it. The team really took a lot of time, energy, money, and we prepared correctly. So before Sweden, we did a time trial camp, and that was kind of my first introduction to doing a team time trial properly, and I was overwhelmed. I was very nervous. I was like, wow, this is a whole different ball game. They take it to another level. You have to be perfect with everything, and then every time it got easier. Every time we started racing better together. So then coming in to the World Championships, we were prepared. We were absolutely prepared. We did everything we could have done, and it showed. We executed perfectly, and it was a fabulous win. Mm-hmm. You get to be with each other. You don't get to do that the whole rest of the year. You don't. If someone wins on the team, they go up. We got to go together as a team. It was beautiful.
You pressed together. You did everything together. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and so I know you've all seen the road circuit, obviously. Mm-hmm. What are the thoughts going into that? Mara, you've obviously had success here in Italy before. What's the thought going into Saturday?
I think that what we're all most excited for is that we have a really strong team, and World Championships is different than a lot of races because the level's so high and because it's a one-day race, and for so many people, I mean, it's World Championships and everyone's there to win it. And so by having a strong team and having so many roles to play and have so many talented riders to fit into that roles, it gives us a lot of options going into Saturday's race. and it allows us to rely on one another to go for that sort of a result.
Yeah. How hard are the climbs? Wait,
Well, I
Jade.
think that kind of depends on how we ride them. So
Sure.
any climb can be incredibly hard or not that bad. So I mean, I think we have a strong enough team that will make the climbs
As
pretty
hard as we
and-
want them to be.
Yeah, as hard as we want them to be, and it'll benefit us.
So we spend a lot of time when we got in the community talking about bike safety and advocacy, and cyclists getting respect on the road and all that education. And one of the kind of the questions that always comes up is, all right, you're out on a training ride, you roll up to a stop sign or a stoplight. Do you stop?
Yes.
What do you do?
Yes, you stop.
You stop.
I mean, we're a vehicle on the road, and we're asking cars to respect us as a vehicle and pass it with a safe distance. So we need to respect the rules of the road,
Sure.
and follow those same rules. Some states have different rules for cyclists. Where I live in Idaho right now, and stop signs are yields for us, and stoplights are a stop, but still you need to know your rules and abide by them.
Yeah.
And
If you don't stop, if you're not unsure, I would usually stop at the stop sign.
yeah,
Yeah.
you stop. I mean, we don't want a confrontation with a car because we're the ones who are going to lose.
Right.
And with that, like if we're respecting the laws, I think we ask that cars help respect us and realize that we don't have a bunch of metal surrounding us to be safe. Like we just have bones.
Yeah.
They're gonna break.
Well, and respect is kind of the name of the game there.
Yeah.
How do you find that scenario, the respect that cyclists get from cars, different in the U.S. versus Europe? Is that too much of a generalization, or what?
I just think cycling in Europe in general is it's just more common. It's more of a, and it's, there's the cycling enthusiasts, but then it's more common as a means of transportation. And I think that's beginning to evolve in the U.S. We can just see the benefits. It's easy transportation, it's healthy, but in order to evolve this transportation, there always are drivers, so we just have to be respectful to the cyclists. And I think Holland and Denmark are two examples of countries that have really embraced the bicycle. They have great bike paths. They have, bikes actually, I would say in Holland, are usually, they have more rights than the cars do. So it just takes time, and it takes, everyone's trying to get someplace, and everyone wants to be healthy. So it's just working with one another, respecting one another.
Yeah. Well, so if, you had a few things to say to a young girl just trying to get into the sport, or thinking about, do I want to race a bike? Do I want to play soccer? Do I want to swim? What's the advice you give? And if they decide to go down that road of cycling, how do you get to the level that you're at?
I would say do it all.
Yeah, I agree.
I really think that it's so super, super important that when you're growing up, you're doing a lot of different activities, and it makes you an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just this one thing that can just pedal a bike. You have to be really complete. And then you have plenty of years to do this afterwards, after getting an education, after, you have so much time.
Yeah.
Women have a lot of time to do this at a high level. You have time to train.
Yeah.
I think anyone listening to this, I think what's so interesting about and special about cycling is all of us started at a variety of ages. It's a sport where you can be 12 starting, or you can be 40 starting. I didn't start riding a bike until 26.
26.
Yeah. So almost all of us started a bit later. So I think a lot of times especially at elite level sports, people are like, oh well, you can't be a professional. Here Jay and I picked up bikes at 26, and we're representing our country at World Championships. So I think it's a very special sport in that regard. So even recreational to elite level, it's like no matter what your age is, just give it a go.
And cycling is a lifetime sport.
That's right.
Like soccer, you have to go with a team. You have to be on the field. Cycling, you can walk out your door and go for miles by yourself, and you can do that whether you're 20 or 80. And you see that all the time over here in Europe, and you're seeing it more and more in the States, and it's really a wonderful sport for that.
Yeah. So kind of, we talked about transportation and how, you know, that plays into it. How, when you're not racing and you need to get to the store or get somewhere, do you ride a bike?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I would
Absolutely.
Say no.
I would say no as well.
Yeah?
I think it depends. Like when I was living in Europe, I lived primarily this year in Europe. I didn't have a car and I used a cruiser bike, and luckily it wasn't that far to the store, and anywhere wasn't that far to get to. But when I'm in the States, I don't necessarily use a bike for transportation. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do because I have to. If you don't have a car, then it's like a bike or a scooter.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, it's always interesting with pros because we spend 5 hours training on a bicycle. So sometimes when you get home and you're hungry, you're like, I got to grocery store.
I think, though, then this is something that's really close to my heart, but if you look at what you're doing and you look at the benefit inherently that cycling is bringing to a lot of people, for myself, environmental causes are huge. That's sort of my driving cause. It's sort of behind whatever I do. And I think something to me that I look at and I say, well, what good is going to come out of my bike riding? And if people can see me bike riding and then they start bike riding and maybe they're just riding around town and they're riding to the grocery store and they're taking fewer trips on their cars and they're getting into cycling as a means of transportation, I think that's huge, and I think that that's one of the greatest things I can do. And so for that reason, for myself, I have a car, but I drive it like once every 3 months when I need to go somewhere that I can't get on my bike or I can't get on the bus. Because for myself, it's almost a personal ethical thing that I'm like, if this is what I'm doing and this is the good that I can do, and then I get in the car and drive to the grocery store, that's just particular to me because that's my cause, and it's not to judge others' actions, but like for myself, that's sort of the ethics code I have to set for myself that like, I think I would feel very hypocritical if I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, Andrew.
I take my car out because I've got a little toy poodle that likes his afternoon car rides. I'm not gonna lie. Looks out the window and he loves life.
So it's for him, not
yeah,
you.
it is for him.
You should get a basket for the front of your bike.
He's nuts.
Maybe he'd like that as much.
Crazy.
So obviously one of the unique things about the World Championships is you get to ride for your country, and there's not that many opportunities to do that. How meaningful is that? To put the stars and stripes on to go out and race. What's that kind of feeling evoke? And
It gives me goosebumps every time. When I was a little kid, I wanted to play for the national team for soccer, and that was my dream. And so then it's coming true, in a different sport, but still to see like childhood dream coming true and pulling on the flag of your country like as your jersey is never gets old. Absolutely never gets old.
Yeah, Carmen.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's not a lot of people get to do this, and we're really lucky, and we've all worked really, really hard to get to this point. So to be able to represent USA at such a big event, it doesn't get bigger for us. So.
Yeah. So taking kind of that experience of riding for your country now, flash forward 2 years, having the World Championships in the U.S. What is that?
It's a whole nother level.
So awesome. Like, I don't know, especially Americans in the professional cycling world are always we're fighting, we're like the outsiders just trying to fight our way in. And we have to spend our year over here. We kind of adapt to the European way. And I can't wait for all the Europeans to have to take that flight on over and have the jet lag and just to experience, we live over here to race here, and I just can't wait for them to experience Richmond.
Dude, yeah.
And I have no doubt in my mind that Richmond is gonna give the warmest welcome to the cyclist. And yeah, I think to be able to wear the U.S. colors in Richmond is just gonna be
another.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they always say that you can go deeper when you're racing in your home country. So I know that can only imagine the Americans will put on quite a show for that.
Yeah.
Race.
Even today when we were pre-riding, there was some Americans at the top of one of the climb, and every time we came around they were chanting, and it was like 10 of them, but it totally gave me goosebumps. I was like, oh my gosh, like, hey, we're connected. We're from the same country. So Richmond, to have a course that's going to be predominantly lined by that, I mean, that's
a big deal.
Going to be phenomenal.
Think when you guys play your sports in high school and the home court advantage, all that.
Yeah.
It's home country advantage.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, Andrea, the idea of World Championships an hour down the road from home.
I know, waking up in my house that morning would be sweet. No, it's awesome because we have a lot of friends in Richmond, a lot of close friends in Richmond. We go down there to do criteriums weekly, and we have a junior program that we're hoping to send some kids to race in Richmond. It's just huge. I mean, just to be able to ride on roads that you're like, I've ridden here before, and this is the pothole, you know, it's just, I'm sweating from it just thinking about it, so it'll be exciing.
To drive to your World
I know.
Well, maybe you need a bike.
Yeah.
We'll get an engine on it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to waste your legs.
It's a good ride, yeah. Well, good. Well, thanks so much, ladies, for your time tonight. Can't wait for the race on Saturday. Best of luck to y'all, and we'll see you in Richmond real soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Huge thanks to the U.S. women's team for joining us on the road to Richmond tonight. Join us next time as we have the U.S. men's team here in Florence. Stay up with all things Richmond 2015 at richmond2015.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. See you next time.